I don't know if you saw Matthew Tkachuk's comments saying, like, we play like a team. They played more like individuals. I don't know if you saw that comment. Which was, I thought it was a knife, a dagger, a pretty good one. I think it's
almost unnecessary. Like, this is the thing about Tkachuk that, like, there's a part of me that loves it because he embraces who he is, and he's like, this is what I am, and I'm just going to terrorize the whole league. But he's constantly jabbing at the teams that he beats. Like, he jabbed at Tampa. I don't know if it's a rivalry, I guess. Jabs at Toronto by saying the toughest series was going to be the first one and the last one, not the Toronto series.
Yeah.
And then he's like, to your point, we won because we're a team, and they didn't win because they're individuals, and when they have struggles, they just look at one guy, and it's got to be McDavid. And then on top of it, he goes, McDavid's just too good. He'll win a Stanley Cup at some point, wherever it happens to be. Yeah. Which is almost an indication, like, you got to leave Edmonton in order for that to happen.
Well, I saw, like, what I got from his comments, too, and this is where I was going, was, like, that team never played together. Like, you get Wallman, you get Kapanen, like, like, they never played together as a group, and it showed. Like, I thought when push came to shove,
didn't show when they dusted Vegas, when they dusted Dallas.
Hear me out. Against a very structured team like Florida, Edmonton's lack of structure really showed. So the familiarity of doing the same, like Florida, like they just put Marchand in, and we were talking to Seth Jones last night, and it was unbelievable what he said. When I came from Chicago, he goes, I did weeks and weeks of video with the coaches because they play a different style than the rest of the league. They want their D to do this. He was going through it. It was unbelievable. He was saying, he goes, I was in the video room every day learning how they want to play, how they want me to play, and how I needed to adjust my game to fit in with them. And I was like, okay, that's unbelievable, like, insight, because Paul Maurice is a really detailed coach. And I thought to myself, like, okay, define how Edmonton plays. Like, define their defensive structure. Like, there's a looseness to it, right? Where Florida's just really buttoned up. So I guess my point is like, that's what I was looking at, was that team continuity.
I know. But like you saying Florida was a structured team, Dallas is a structured team, so the Vegas Golden Knights are a very structured team.
Yeah.
It just, I don't know. They got murdered, man. They got dummied.
That's where I'm having a tough time finding the middle ground, because it's, one thing to tire pump the Panthers because it's deserved, and another thing to be like, well, the Oilers, they just got, like, it's in a crazy way. They were worse this year than last year, and they were down 0-3 last year. Like, they were down 3-0 in that series, and yet this one felt way more unbalanced, if that's possible. Like, and they won game one.
Well, you could argue that Florida's better this year.
That's I'd agree. Yet Edmonton thought they were better, I think. I don't know if they are or not. And Hyman being hurt, maybe they weren't. Maybe they shouldn't have felt that way. I'm not sure. But Florida, I do think, was better. Yet again, it was like Edmonton punched first. They hit first. They won game one. And game two goes to double overtime. And yet by the end of it, it felt, even more unbalanced. And, some of that has to fall on the Oilers. Like, it can't, the whole league can't just say, well, we can't compete with Florida. Like, that's sports, man. You got to find a way to break through. You got to find a way in your second year, because everything you just said is, I think, fascinating from Jones' perspective. But you know who also has tape? The Oilers. To watch them.
That's my point.
You know what they're going to do.
That's the crazy thing.
And you couldn't find a way to stop it.
Yeah, that was my point, is like, they've got work to do on stuff that, should be ingrained. Now, again, maybe some turnover it wasn't ingrained, but that was my point, is how buttoned up Florida is. Edmonton got by on, hey, we can outscore, we can do this and that, and when push came to shove, it unraveled because they didn't have that structure. They didn't have, habits to fall back on, and it's easy to say need better goaltending. They do. I'm sorry.
100%. Like, if you look at, the goaltending wasn't good enough.
They need better goaltending, but they also need, like, there's holes in that lineup that they need to fill.
That's the question, is how can you fill all these? Like, if you're turning over both goalies, I don't know if they will or not, but I would suggest, I don't know how you can bring Stuart Skinner back. I'll just say that
either,
bluntly.
guys.
I don't know how you can.
If you brought the guys, the players into the locker room, I think if you brought the coaches in too, and you were doing an unveiling, and you just pulled like a tarp off and said, guys, this is the goalies for this year, and it was Pickard and Skinner again, I don't know what the guys' reaction would be.
But you're right, but it's also letting them off the hook too. It's letting, they made it to Game 7 last year and Game 6 this year with that goaltending. So then, and McDavid, 0 goals in, Game 7, Game 6, Game 5.
Yep.
Draisaitl, I thought, was really good.
I thought overall, for the most part he was good through the series.
Excellent.
He scored 2 OT winners. Listen,
4
there's a McDavid. Over the course of the playoffs. I'm talking in the Cup final.
Okay, yeah.
But if you look at the McDavid story takes on a completely different complexion now. We've referenced it. Sid, his second time against the same team, won. Gretzky's second time won. Yeah. Mario in his prime went to back-to-back. They won both. To be a player of his status, who's already probably a top 10 player all time, to lose back-to-back Cup finals, and he's 10 years into the league, the Four Nations, that's the biggest winning team moment of his career as an NHL player. And now he's got to chase it again. And now he's got to try to get back to the dance. And his new deal will kick in next year. And Draisaitl's going to make more. And Bouchard's going to make more. It's going to get complicated. It's not going to get easier. And you're right. The biggest games, the 3 or 4 biggest games of his career, he hasn't played well enough. And, it may not have mattered. Maybe Skinner still doesn't get it done. Or Ekholm throws a pizza. Or Florida's just simply too good. Yeah. But no one can leave Game 5 and Game 6 of this series or Game 7 of the Cup final last year. You can't leave the rink saying McDavid was unbelievable. You can't do it because it's not accurate.